Kieran stepped off the transport shuttle, stretching his arms after the long journey. The space station Veyron was unlike anything he had ever seen before. The metallic hallways shimmered under the artificial lights, and alien figures walked past him, speaking in strange but fascinating languages. This was his new home for the next year, a place where humans and different alien species worked together. He took a deep breath and checked his assignment details on the small data pad in his hand. Room 218B. He walked through the corridors, carrying his bag, until he reached a sliding door. Taking a moment to adjust his uniform, he pressed the button. The door hissed open. Inside the room, a tall alien with soft purple skin and 4 golden eyes looked up from her seat. She had smooth, scale-like markings on her arms, and her long silver hair was tied back. She blinked at him, then smiled in a way that seemed warm and welcoming. "You are the human," she said in a gentle voice. Kieran nodded. "And you must be Tiyali." She stood up, her movements graceful. "Yes, I was told we would share this space. It is an honor." Kieran smiled politely, placing his bag on the lower bunk. "Same here." Tiyali tilted her head, then gestured toward the bed. "Ah, there is something we must discuss." Kieran sat down, feeling a little uneasy. "Go ahead." She sat beside him, hands folded neatly. "In my culture, it is tradition to share a sleeping space. It is how we bond, maintain warmth, and ensure protection. The bed will be shared." Kieran blinked. "You mean we have to sleep in the same bed?" She nodded. "Yes, it is the Exelari way." Kieran rubbed the back of his neck, feeling awkward. He had read about alien customs before arriving, but he hadn't expected this. Humans valued personal space, and sharing a bed with someone he just met felt strange. I don't know if I'm comfortable with that," he admitted. Tiyali studied him for a moment, then sighed. "I understand that humans have different customs, but I ask you to consider this carefully." She gestured to her arms. "Exelari regulate body heat through closeness. Without it, I may grow weak over time." Kieran frowned. "Wait, you mean you can't stay warm on your own?" "Our bodies adjust to the presence of others. When alone, we begin to lose warmth. It is not dangerous immediately, but over weeks or months, it can cause health problems," she explained. Kieran hesitated. He didn't want to make her uncomfortable, but he also wasn't sure if he could handle sleeping beside someone he barely knew. Tiyali seemed to sense his hesitation. "I do not ask this to inconvenience you, Kieran. But if we are to live together, I must be honest about my needs. If you refuse, I will not force you." Kieran took a deep breath, thinking. He had signed up for this exchange program to learn about new cultures, to understand alien species. If he rejected this, was he really embracing the experience? Besides, she didn't seem dangerous, just different. "All right," he said finally. "We can try it, but we'll have rules, okay? No touching, no weirdness." Tiyali smiled, her golden eyes shining. "Agreed." Kieran sighed, flopping back onto the bed. "This is going to take some getting used to." Tiyali chuckled softly. "For both of us." As the station's night cycle began, Kieran lay awake for a long time, staring at the ceiling. He had come here for adventure, and he had certainly found it, just not in the way he expected. Little did he know, this arrangement would soon become far more important than just a simple tradition. Kieran woke up with a shiver. His body felt stiff, and his breath came out in small, misty puffs. For a moment, he thought something was wrong with the station's heating system. Then he remembered. This wasn't a human space station. The temperature here was set for Xilari comfort, not his. He turned his head slightly and saw Tiyali, still asleep beside him. Unlike him, she looked perfectly comfortable. Her soft purple skin had a gentle glow under the dim lights, and her long silver hair was spread out on the pillow. Kieran sighed and sat up, rubbing his arms for warmth. He wasn't used to sleeping beside someone, But the cold was a bigger problem right now. He checked the temperature settings on his datapad. 15 degrees Celsius. No wonder he was freezing. Humans preferred something closer to 22 degrees. Tayale stirred beside him. She stretched her arms slightly and opened her 4 golden eyes, blinking at him. "You are awake early," she said in her soft, calm voice. Kieran let out a short laugh. "Yeah, hard to sleep when I feel like I'm turning into an ice cube." Tayale frowned slightly. "Your body struggles with the temperature." Kieran nodded. "Yeah, it's too cold for me." Tayale thought for a moment. Then, without warning, she shifted closer to him. Kieran tensed. "What are you doing?" he asked. "This will help," she said simply. Ciliary bodies produce warmth. Your body lacks it." Kieran hesitated. The warmth coming from her skin was obvious. It was like sitting next to a heater. He had to admit, it felt really good compared to the freezing air, but at the same time, this was still weird for him. I appreciate it, but I don't think humans do this," he said awkwardly. Tayale tilted her head, studying him. "You have different customs, I understand. But your body is suffering. Should I let you be uncomfortable?" Kieran sighed. "No, I guess not." Tayale gave a small, satisfied nod and rested back against the bed. Kieran exhaled and tried to relax. It was strange, but after a few minutes, the warmth started easing his tension. He felt his body finally relaxing, and the cold no longer bit at his skin. As he lay there, he thought about how different Ciliary and humans were. For humans, personal space was important, but for Ciliary, closeness was survival. He wondered how it must feel for Tayale, living on this station without others of her kind to bond with. After a few moments, he asked, "Hey, do you ever get lonely here?" Tayale turned her golden eyes toward him, surprised by the question. "Loneliness? Yeah. I mean, you said your species is used to being close to others, but here, you only have me. Doesn't that feel different?" Tayale was silent for a moment. Then she said, "Yes, it is difficult." Kieran glanced at her. She spoke in her usual calm voice, but there was something in her tone, a small hint of sadness. She continued, "In Ciliary culture, we sleep together, we eat together, we work together. We are never truly alone. But here, I must adjust to new ways. It is challenging." Kieran nodded slowly. "I get that. I guess it's like if I had to live on a planet where no one spoke my language. Even if people were friendly, I'd still feel out of place." Tayale gave a small smile. "Yes, it is the same." Kieran sighed. "I guess we'll just have to figure it out together." Tayale nodded. "Yes, we will." Silence settled between them, but it was no longer uncomfortable. Kieran realized that, despite how strange this situation was, he didn't feel as awkward as before. Maybe, just maybe, this wouldn't be so bad after all. But unknown to him, Tayale's condition was getting worse, and soon he would have to make a very important choice. Kieran was getting used to life on Veyron Station, but some things were still difficult. The cold was the worst. Every morning, he woke up feeling stiff and freezing, while Tayale seemed completely fine. At first, he thought he could just adjust, but no matter what he tried, extra blankets, warmer clothes, even changing the room settings slightly, nothing helped. The station was designed for Ciliary, not humans. But something else started bothering him too. Tayale was acting different. At first, it was small things. She moved slower than usual. She blinked more often, as if tired. Her usual bright purple skin looked dull in some places, and her golden eyes didn't shine as much. "Kieran," she called softly one morning. He turned to see her sitting on the edge of the bed, her head slightly lowered. She looked exhausted. "Hey, you okay?" he asked, concerned. Tayale nodded slowly, but Kieran wasn't convinced. Her hands were trembling slightly. "You don't look okay," he said. Tyali hesitated, then sighed. It is nothing serious. Just a phase. Kieran frowned. A phase. She nodded. Celery bodies sometimes lose warmth and energy. It happens to all of us. But normally, we recover quickly. Kieran narrowed his eyes. You're not recovering, though. She looked away, as if avoiding his gaze. Kieran felt a strange sense of worry in his chest. Tyali had always been strong and calm, but now she looked weak and tired. How long has this been happening? He asked. Tyali sighed again. Since before you arrived. Kieran's eyes widened. Wait, you were already feeling like this before I got here. She gave a small nod. Kieran clenched his jaw. This wasn't normal. She was hiding something. I'm calling the station medics, he said firmly. Tyali's eyes snapped up in alarm. No. Kieran was taken aback. What? Why not? She shook her head. They will not understand. Human doctors do not know how to help Celery. They will only ask questions, run tests, and tell me to rest. Kieran hesitated. She had a point. The medical staff on Veyron were trained to treat injuries, but they didn't specialize in celery biology. If Tyali said they wouldn't help, he had to believe her. But he wasn't just going to sit and do nothing. Then tell me what you need, he said. How do Celery recover from this? Tyali was silent for a long moment. Then, finally, she spoke. We share warmth. Kieran blinked. Wait, like the bed-sharing thing. She nodded. But it is more than that. In my homeworld, we stay close to others at all times when we are weak. We absorb warmth, strength, and energy from those around us. It is natural. Kieran processed this. It made sense now. Celery weren't just comfortable with closeness. They depended on it. And Tyali, she had no one but him. Kieran exhaled slowly. So, you need more warmth. She gave a small, hesitant nod. Kieran rubbed his forehead. This was way outside his comfort zone, but he couldn't ignore the truth. Tyali was getting worse. She wasn't asking because of tradition. She was in pain. Kieran sighed. Okay, we'll do whatever it takes to help you recover. Tyali's eyes widened slightly. You mean? He nodded. I'll help. I don't know how, but I'll figure it out. For the first time in days, Tyali smiled. A small, grateful smile. Kieran knew this was only the beginning. But one thing was clear. He wasn't going to let her suffer alone. Kieran had made up his mind. He was going to help Tyali. That night, as he lay beside her, he could feel the difference. Her body was colder than before. Her usual soft warmth was fading, and that scared him. She wasn't just uncomfortable. She was getting weaker. Tyali lay still, her silver hair spread across the pillow. Her 4 golden eyes were half closed, and her breathing was slower than usual. Kieran hesitated, then spoke. How bad is it? Tyali blinked at him, as if deciding whether to tell the truth. Then she sighed. It is difficult. Kieran frowned. What happens if you don't get enough warmth? She hesitated before answering. I will survive for some time, but my body will continue to weaken. If it lasts too long, I may not recover fully. Kieran's stomach twisted. She had been acting strong, but this was serious. He exhaled slowly. Okay, tell me exactly what I need to do. Tyali looked at him with a mix of surprise and gratitude. Just stay close, she said softly. That will be enough. Kieran shifted slightly, closing the small gap between them. It felt strange at first, but then he noticed something. Tyali's breathing steadied. He wasn't sure how it worked, but he could feel it, her body reacting to his presence, trying to absorb his warmth. Minutes passed. Slowly, her skin started regaining some of its usual warmth. Kieran watched her carefully. Is this helping? Tyali gave a small nod. Yes, it is easier to breathe. He let out a breath of relief. Silence settled between them. Kieran could hear the distant hum of the space station, the quiet beeping of machines in the walls. Normally, he liked silence. But tonight, it felt heavy, like there was still more to say. After a while, he asked, "Is this why you agreed to a human roommate?" Tayali blinked. "What do you mean?" Kieran turned his head to look at her. "You could have asked for another Xilari, right? Someone from your own species." She was quiet for a moment, then said, "There were no others." Kieran's chest tightened. "You mean, you're the only one here?" She nodded slowly. "The only Xilari on this station." Kieran's heart sank. He had known she was different, but he hadn't realized how alone she truly was. Tayali continued, "When I was assigned here, I knew it would be difficult, but I wanted to learn about other species. I wanted to understand the way humans live." She gave a small, tired smile. "I did not expect a human to care so much about my struggles." Kieran scoffed. "Of course I care. I'm not going to let my roommates suffer just because our species are different." Tayali's golden eyes softened. "That is very human of you." Kieran frowned. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, then explained. "Xilari are not unkind, but we do not always question things. If a rule exists, we follow it. If something is difficult, we endure it. But humans—" She paused, searching for the right words. "You see a problem, and you fight to fix it, even when it is not your responsibility." Kieran thought about that. He had never really considered it before, but she was right. Humans didn't just accept things, they changed them. He gave a small chuckle. "Guess we're stubborn like that." Tayala smiled. "It is a good thing." Kieran sighed and looked up at the ceiling. "So what happens next? Do we just keep doing this until you feel better?" Tayali nodded. "Yes. My body will adjust slowly." Kieran was silent for a moment, then smirked. "Well, guess we're stuck with each other, huh?" Tayala chuckled softly. "It seems so." As the station's night cycle continued, Kieran felt his own worries start to fade. Tayali wasn't just a strange alien anymore. She was a friend. And friends didn't let each other suffer alone. Whatever happened next, he would make sure she wouldn't face it alone. Kieran had never thought he would get used to sleeping beside an alien. But here he was, sharing warmth with Tayali every night. At first, it had been uncomfortable. He wasn't used to being so close to someone, especially someone from a completely different species. But as days passed, it started feeling normal. And most importantly, Tayali was improving. Her skin no longer looked dull. Her golden eyes had regained their brightness, and she didn't seem as tired as before. She was recovering. One morning, Kieran woke up and stretched, feeling much more rested than usual. Tayali was already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed, looking thoughtful. "Morning," Kieran said, rubbing his eyes. Tayali turned to him and smiled slightly. "Good morning, Kieran." He sat up and yawned. "How are you feeling today?" She tilted her head, considering the question. Then she nodded. "Better. Much better." Kieran grinned. "See, told you I'd help." Tayala chuckled softly. "Yes, you did." There was a short silence before she spoke again. "Kieran, I have been thinking." Kieran raised an eyebrow. "That sounds dangerous." Tayali gave him a look but continued. "I was worried about sharing my weakness with you, but now, I believe, I was wrong." Kieran frowned. "What do you mean?" She sighed. "Xilari do not often rely on other species. We are taught to endure things on our own, even when it is painful. But you do not think that way. You helped me without hesitation." Kieran shrugged. "Well, yeah, that's what friends do." Tayali blinked at him. Friends. The word sounded foreign on her tongue, as if she wasn't used to saying it. Kieran smirked. "Yeah. You know, two people who look out for each other." Tayali smiled. "Then, we are friends." Kieran chuckled. I think we passed roommate status a long time ago. Tayali gave a soft laugh, and for the first time, she looked truly relaxed. A new challenge. Over the next few days, Karen noticed something strange. Tayali was getting better, but now he was the one feeling tired. He tried to ignore it at first. Maybe he just wasn't sleeping well. Maybe it was just the cold. But then, one evening, he nearly collapsed. He was walking back to their room after a long shift in the station's control center when his vision blurred. His legs felt weak, and suddenly, he had to grab the nearest wall to keep himself upright. A few people nearby noticed. "Hey, you okay?" one of them asked. Kieran forced a nod. Yeah, just a little dizzy." But deep inside, he knew something was wrong. By the time he reached his room, his body felt completely drained, like all his energy was being pulled away. Tayali was inside, organizing some of her belongings. She turned when he entered. "Karan." Her eyes immediately filled with concern. "You look unwell." He tried to wave it off. "I'm fine, just a little tired." But as soon as he took another step, his knees gave out. Before he could hit the ground, Tayali moved fast, catching him before he could fall. Kiran groaned. "Okay, maybe not fine." Tayali's face was filled with worry. "Kiran, this is not normal. What is happening to you?" He took a deep breath, trying to focus. "I don't know. I just feel weak." Tayali frowned, helping him sit on the bed. She pressed her hand to his forehead. Kiran tensed. Her skin was warm, almost too warm. Then he saw her expression change, her golden eyes widening in realization. "Kiran," she whispered, "you have been sharing your warmth with me all this time. But now, you are the one losing energy." Kiran blinked. "Wait, are you saying I'm sick because of this?" Tayali hesitated, then shook her head. "Not sick, but unbalanced." She looked guilty. "I have been absorbing warmth from you every night. It helped me, but I did not realize it might harm you." Kiran let out a tired laugh. "Great, so I saved you, and now I'm the one who needs saving." Tayali's expression was serious. "Yes, and now I must help you." Kiran frowned. "How?" She hesitated. "Xilari do not just take warmth. We can give it back." Kiran stared at her. "You mean?" Tayali gave a small nod. "Tonight, I will stay close to you. I will return the warmth you have lost." Kiran sighed. He wasn't used to asking for help, but right now, he didn't have a choice. "All right," he said. "Let's try it." Tayali's expression softened. "I will not let you suffer, Kiran." He gave her a tired smile. "I know." That night, for the first time, Tayali was the one keeping him warm. And Kiran realized, maybe humans weren't the only ones who helped others without hesitation. Maybe Xilari did too. And maybe, just maybe, this strange friendship was turning into something deeper than either of them expected. Kiran lay on the bed, his body feeling heavy. He had never felt this weak before. His limbs ached, and even though he was covered in a blanket, a deep chill ran through him. Tayali sat beside him, watching him closely. Her golden eyes were filled with worry. "You are colder than before," she murmured, pressing a warm hand against his forehead. Kiran gave a weak chuckle. "Guess I really messed myself up, huh?" Tayali didn't smile. "This is not funny, Kiran." He sighed. She was right. His condition wasn't normal. He had been fine before, but now, it felt like all the warmth in his body had disappeared. Tayali had said Xilari could return warmth. But how? Kiran forced himself to stay awake. "So, how does this work?" he asked. Tayali hesitated. "It is similar to how I absorbed your warmth before, but this time, I will give it back." Kiran frowned. "That simple?" She nodded. "Yes, but it requires direct contact." Kiran raised an eyebrow. "Like holding hands or something?" Tayali shook her head. More than that. Kieran suddenly felt nervous. How much more? Tyale's expression remained calm. Our energy transfers best when we are completely close. This is why Celeri stay in contact with each other during times of weakness. Kieran swallowed. He wasn't exactly used to being this close to someone, but at this point, he was too tired to argue. All right, he said finally. Let's do it. Tyale nodded and moved closer, carefully wrapping her arms around him. Kieran stiffened at first. He wasn't expecting her warmth to be so comforting. His body, which had felt frozen just moments ago, slowly began to relax. He let out a long breath. Wow, that actually helps. Tyale gave a small smile. Good. Just rest. A different kind of warmth. Minutes passed in silence. Kieran closed his eyes, focusing on the strange sensation. It wasn't just physical warmth. There was something else. A sense of calm. A quiet understanding. Maybe this was what Celeri felt when they shared warmth. Not just body heat, but trust. Kieran had always thought of himself as independent. He didn't like relying on others. But now, for the first time, he didn't mind. He opened his eyes slightly and glanced at Tyale. She looked peaceful, her silver hair glowing faintly in the dim light. She caught him staring and tilted her head. Is something wrong? Kieran shook his head. No, just thinking. Tyale raised an eyebrow. Thinking about what? Kieran hesitated before answering. About how weird this is. Tyale chuckled softly. You mean sharing warmth? Yeah. He sighed. But also, not really. Tyale looked at him curiously. Explain. Kieran took a deep breath. I mean, yeah, it's strange. Humans don't usually do this. But at the same time, it makes sense. I get why Celeri do it now. Tyale's golden eyes softened. You do. Kieran nodded. It's not just about survival, is it? Tyale smiled. No, it is not. They fell into silence again. But this time, it was a comfortable one. Kieran could already feel the strength returning to his body. His fingers weren't numb anymore. His breathing was steady. Tyale had saved him, just like he had saved her. He smirked. Guess we're even now. Tyale chuckled. Not yet. You will need more time to recover. Kieran groaned. Great, so I'm still stuck like this. Tyale nodded. Yes, until your warmth fully returns. Kieran sighed dramatically. Fine, but only because I have no choice. Tyale laughed, shaking her head. You are a strange human, Kieran. He grinned. And you're a weird alien. Guess we make a good team. Tyale smiled softly. Yes, we do. As sleep slowly took over, Kieran realized something. He didn't feel cold anymore. Not just physically, but deep inside. And maybe that was the real warmth he had been missing all along. Kieran woke up feeling warmer than ever. For the past few days, his body had felt cold and weak, but now it was different. His energy had returned. He blinked a few times, adjusting to the soft lighting of their room. Tyale was still beside him, her breathing slow and steady. She had stayed close to him every night, making sure he regained his strength. She had taken care of him, just like he had taken care of her. Kieran smiled to himself. They really were a team now. He stretched slightly, trying not to wake her, but Tyale's golden eyes slowly fluttered open. She blinked at him sleepily. Kieran, how do you feel? He grinned. Better. A lot better. Tyale studied him for a moment, then nodded. Your warmth has stabilized. Kieran chuckled. That's a fancy way of saying you fixed me. Tyale tilted her head. I did not fix you. I simply returned what you gave me. He smirked. Well, whatever you call it, I'm grateful. She smiled softly. As am I. The unspoken change. Kieran sat up, stretching his arms. So, I guess we don't need to do this anymore, huh? Tayale hesitated. For the first time, she didn't immediately agree. Yes, she said slowly. Your body no longer requires warmth. Kiran frowned slightly. You don't sound sure. Tayale looked away. It is just, I have become used to this. Kiran raised an eyebrow. Used to what? Tayale's 4 golden eyes met his, sharing warmth. It no longer feels strange. Kiran paused. He understood what she meant. At first, it had been uncomfortable for both of them, but now, it felt normal. Maybe even comforting. Kiran gave a small laugh. Yeah, I get that. Tayale seemed relieved that he felt the same way. A quiet understanding passed between them. But neither of them spoke further about it. An unexpected problem. Later that day, Kiran and Tayale walked through the space station together. For the first time in days, he didn't feel tired. As they reached the cafeteria, Kiran's stomach growled loudly. Tayale raised an amused eyebrow. I believe you require food, Kiran. Kiran sighed. Yeah, almost dying really works up an appetite. Tayale chuckled softly as they grabbed their meals and sat at a small table. Just as Kiran was about to take a bite, a voice interrupted them. Hey, human. Kiran looked up and groaned internally. It was Drek, a canary officer. Drek was taller than Kiran, covered in dark green scales, and always had an arrogant smirk. Kiran had never liked him. Drek crossed his arms. I heard you were sick. Looks like you survived. Kiran rolled his eyes. Nice to see you too, Drek. Drek's eyes flickered to Tayale, then back to Kiran. So, I heard rumors. Kiran frowned. What rumors? Drek smirked. That you and your alien roommate have been sleeping together. Kiran nearly choked on his food. Tayale looked confused. She turned to Kiran. Is this an insult? Kiran sighed. No, just Drek being an idiot. Drek leaned forward. I mean, come on. Auxiliary sharing a bed with a human. That's not normal. Kiran glared at him. We're just helping each other survive. That's all. Drek laughed. Sure. Whatever you say. Kiran was about to say something else, but then he felt a gentle touch on his arm. Tayale. She looked at him and shook her head slightly. A silent message. Don't waste your energy on him. Kiran took a deep breath and relaxed. He smirked at Drek. Believe whatever you want. Doesn't change the truth. Drek narrowed his eyes, annoyed that Kiran wasn't getting angry. He muttered something under his breath and walked away. Kiran sighed. That guy really gets on my nerves. Tayale looked thoughtful. I do not understand why others care so much about our actions. Kiran shrugged. People love to gossip. Tayale tilted her head. But why? What we do does not affect them. Kiran smiled. Exactly. That's why I don't care what they think. Tayale studied him for a moment, then nodded. Neither do I. And just like that, the moment passed. A silent agreement. That night, as Kiran climbed into bed, he hesitated. He wasn't cold anymore. He didn't need Tayale's warmth. But would it really be so bad if they still shared it? He turned his head. Tayale was watching him. She hesitated too. Neither of them spoke, but after a moment, they both moved closer, without needing a reason. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Kiran had always thought of himself as a practical person. He liked to keep things simple, never overcomplicating anything. But lately, things weren't so simple. He wasn't sick anymore. He didn't need warmth. And yet, he and Tayale still shared the bed. At first, he told himself it was just habit. They had grown used to it, and breaking that routine felt strange. But deep down, he knew the truth. Something had changed between them, and he wasn't sure what to do about it. An unspoken question. Kiran sat at their small table, staring at his food. He hadn't eaten much. Tayale watched him. You seem distracted. He blinked and looked up. Huh. Oh, yeah. Just thinking. Tyali tilted her head. About what? Kieran hesitated. He didn't want to admit it. Nothing important, he said instead. Tyali frowned slightly, but didn't push him. If it becomes important, you may tell me. Kieran gave a small smile. She always knew when something was on his mind. Maybe that was part of what made things so confusing. A visit from an old friend. Later that day, Kieran received a message from someone unexpected. Rin. Rin was an old friend from Earth, one of the few people Kieran actually kept in contact with. When Kieran saw the message, he grinned. He hadn't spoken to Rin in months. He tapped his communicator. Rin. Long time no see. A moment later, a holographic image of Rin appeared. Kieran. Man, you look alive. That's good. Kieran chuckled. Yeah, had a rough time, but I'm still kicking. Rin smirked. I heard. Rumors travel fast, you know. Kieran groaned. Let me guess, you heard about the whole sleeping with an alien thing. Rin burst out laughing. Oh yeah, people are making up all kinds of stories about you. Kieran rolled his eyes. Great, just what I needed. Rin grinned. So, is it true? Kieran sighed. It's not what people think. See Larry share warmth. It's normal for them. Rin raised an eyebrow. Sure, but is it normal for you? Kieran paused. That was the real question, wasn't it? Rin smirked at his silence. Thought so. Well, just be careful, man. I gotta go, but let's talk again soon. Kieran nodded. Yeah, take care. As Rin's hologram disappeared, Kieran was left with more questions than answers, facing the truth. That night, Kieran sat on his bed, lost in thought. Tyality sat beside him, watching him carefully. You have been distant today, she said. Kieran sighed. Yeah, just thinking about some things. Tyali hesitated. May I ask, is it about us? Kieran's heart skipped a beat. She had figured it out. He exhaled. Yeah, I guess it is. Tyali was silent for a moment. Then, softly, she asked, Do you regret it? Kieran's eyes widened. No, of course not. Tyali seemed relieved, but there was still something in her expression. Uncertainty. Kieran rubbed the back of his neck. It's just, I didn't expect this. I didn't expect to care this much. Tyali's golden eyes softened. Neither did I. They sat in silence. Kieran finally spoke. So, what do we do now? Tyali thought for a moment. Then, quietly, she said, we stop thinking. And we let things happen as they are meant to. Kieran looked at her. Maybe she was right. Maybe he didn't need to have all the answers right now. Maybe it was okay to just let things be. Slowly, he nodded. All right. No more thinking. Tyali smiled. Good. And as they lay down, side by side, Kieran realized something. He wasn't confused anymore. Kieran had always believed that space was cold, empty, and unforgiving. But right now, lying beside Tyali, he realized something. Space wasn't so lonely anymore. The past few weeks had changed everything. What had started as survival had become something else, something neither of them had expected. A quiet morning. Kieran woke up to the soft glow of the station's artificial sunrise. He blinked, adjusting his eyes. Tyali was still beside him, her silver hair spread over the pillow, her breathing slow and steady. For a moment, he just watched her. It was strange. He had never thought he'd be this comfortable around someone, especially not an alien. But with Tyali, everything felt natural, as if they had always been like this. Tyali stirred, her golden eyes slowly opening. She looked at him and gave a small, sleepy smile. You are awake early. Kieran smirked. So are you. She stretched slightly, her movements graceful. I could feel you thinking. Kieran raised an eyebrow. You can feel my thoughts now. Tayala chuckled softly. No, but I have learned to notice when you are lost in them. Kiran sighed. Yeah, I guess I've been thinking a lot lately. Tayali tilted her head. About what? He hesitated. How was he supposed to put this into words? The choice. Kiran sat up, running a hand through his hair. Tayali, when we first met, I never expected any of this. Tayali sat up too, listening carefully. Neither did I. Kiran took a deep breath. But now, things are different. And I know we said we wouldn't think too much about it, but... He looked at her, his voice quieter. I don't want this to end. Tayali didn't look surprised. Instead, she smiled gently. Neither do I. Relief washed over Kiran. He hadn't realized how much he had needed to hear that. Tayali reached for his hand, her fingers warm against his. So why worry? Kiran chuckled. Because I'm human. We worry about everything. Tayali shook her head in amusement. Then allow me to remind you, our people do not form bonds easily. But when we do not let them break. Kiran swallowed. So, what does that mean for us? Tayali squeezed his hand lightly. It means we stop thinking, and we simply stay. Kiran met her gaze, searching for any hesitation. But there was none. Slowly, he nodded. All right, we stay. More than a tradition. The station was always buzzing with activity, but for Kiran, everything felt quieter now. The rumors had faded. The gossip had lost its meaning. Because in the end, none of it mattered. All that mattered was that they had made a choice. To stand together. To share warmth, not just as a tradition, but as something more. Tayali walked beside him through the station corridors. She didn't say anything, but she didn't need to. Their steps matched. Their movements were in sync. They had started as strangers, then as reluctant roommates, then as something neither of them could define. But now they knew exactly what they were. And for the first time, Kiran wasn't afraid of the unknown, because whatever came next, they would face it together.